Hey, Andre, what does the number 17 mean to you?
17 flavors of ice cream?
No, that's a lot more flavors than 17. All right. I'll give you a hint. If I say 17 followed by the word years.
Oh, 17 years. You must be talking about the Frontier.
Yep, that's how long it's been since there has been a brand new Nissan Frontier. And in this episode of Talkin Trucks, we're going to be talking Frontier because me and you just got back from, Sundance, where they do the film festival, and we had a chance to get our hands on the new Frontier. We towed with it, we took it off-road. You actually got to drive the SV, right?
Yeah, I did the SV, we did the Pro 4X, we also drove the Pro X, the new model, right?
Yep, and so we're going to be talking about all of that. So if you guys are interested in mid-size trucks or the Frontier, or just want to have a good time listening to all things truck, then be sure to tune up the radio. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just get into it, Andre.
No, tune up your iPhones.
Exactly. Turn up the volume. All right, let's just get into it. So me and you just got back from Utah, and we went to a place called Sundance. And if you guys have ever heard of Robert Redford or the Sundance Film Festival, this is where it takes place. Now, I was under the impression that it was like in the mountains, above Salt Lake City.
I thought it was in Europe.
Which it kind of sort of is, but it's not. It's only like, I would say, 35, 40 minutes outside of downtown Salt Lake City.
Yeah, it's easy to get to, and it's like elevation there is like between like 6,000 and 7,000 feet above sea level, so it's not that high of elevation. But dude, before we get to this all-new Frontier, I want to thank our Patreon supporters.
Yes, you guys are the best. As you know, we don't have any ads running in these podcasts, so it's because of you guys. So who are the people we need to thank for that right now?
Well, actually, this last week, we got huge support from the following people. Scott Ivlow, Charles Wilcox, Chris Deal, Jonathan Tyree, Daniel Hutton, STIJN.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. And Anybarn Chattery.
Tommy and I had a huge argument about this over breakfast.
What?
Are people who support us called Patreons or patrons?
I don't know what to call them, but I want to thank them.
All right. Well, whatever you are, we want to thank you guys for allowing us to do this. And without you, it would not be possible. So let's go back to the Frontier. So we got to Sundance,
yes,
which is a resort that I guess was owned by Robert Redford, but
yes,
it's no longer owned by him. And it's beautiful. It's kind of in the mountains, and there's a river that runs through it.
There's a little ski area there.
There's a ski area. We didn't pay attention to a lot of the resort because immediately we were, struck by the fact that we took a Nissan NV from the airport.
Yes, so this is an older NV.
Yeah. They have this van that this is a cool thing about it, that in Salt Lake, you were telling me there's a company that actually converted them to four-wheel drive. And we saw one of them, which was super exciting.
Yeah. So basically the NV is like a full-size van, right?
Yeah, it's like if you have a lot of kids, which,
some people do.
In Utah, some people do. It's true. They have a lot of kids.
Yes. And it's basically like 3 or 4 row, and it's really huge van. It's like a competitor to the Transit, right?
Uh-huh.
But Nissan is in the process of discontinuing this van for one reason or another. And it's based on the Titan, actually. A lot of components from the Titan are also on the NV. So there are companies out there converting them four-wheel drive and making overland vehicles out of them.
Yeah, and so Andre was telling me about this, and I'm like, well, how do they do that? How do they take an MV? And he said, well, it's part of a Titan chassis, and then lo and behold, there goes one driving past it. It was super cool because it's lifted and it's got like off-road tires on it.
All right.
Yeah. How much does that conversion cost?
Oh, dude, I don't remember. We did a video about it. Me and Nathan actually reviewed one, so you can check it out. I think it was either on the off-road channel, TFL Off-Road, or TFL Now.
And maybe if Nissan had built that, they'd still be selling NVs.
Yeah, maybe a four-wheel drive is really desirable. Because it's a V8 powered van.
Right now, there's a huge lust and interest in overlanding, right? And that's a really good platform if you want to build a big overlanding van. And of course, what's missing is the all-wheel or four-wheel drive, and if you can get it like that. And like I said, the one we saw was cool. It was lifted, it had like black wheels with black tires. It looked sinister. It was just a cool van.
Yeah. And what I noticed being in the shuttle van from the airport, that the air conditioning wasn't very good.
The air conditioning was not very good, but that's because
I was in the back.
you're in a big metal box.
I was in the back seat.
All right. So anyway, so we get to Sundance, and then they interestingly take us out to this reservoir, and I don't recall the name of it, but it was
I
really,
do.
what was it?
Deer Creek.
Deer Creek Reservoir,
Yeah.
and this is the place where people go boating, and of course Andre's a big boater.
Yes, and just the day prior, I was on my boat here in Colorado, and then I saw all the ski boats that they had, high dollar ones, brand new ones. I was very jealous.
Yeah, and there's and it's like something inlet. There's a channel on YouTube where people film nothing but these like
Boat ramps.
no inlets where boats come.
Oh
out
yes, it's in Florida.
Yeah, it's in Florida where they come out and then the waves get really big and then like bad things happen, right? People get bounced around, boats get bounced around, and it was kind of the same thing because we were there at night for dinner and people were pulling boats out of the reservoir, and the problem was, of course, that the reservoir was very low because, of course, we're in a drought situation, and it was actually hilarious to see like people with trucks trying to pull their boats out and how tricky that is. And you do this a lot because you have a boat. So, what were the mistakes you saw?
Well,
trying it in two-wheel drive was the first mistake.
Two-wheel drive. A lot of people were in two-wheel drive
Because you had to like half submerge the truck to get the boat in far enough to actually launch it.
Yeah. So what happens in the reservoirs here out west, right? Like you said, low on water because there's a drought situation. They're letting out the dam, the water in through the dam, and what happens is sometimes the lake gets flat. A little bit more, not as steep, because you kind of want a relatively steep ramp to launch your boat. So you can just put the boat in, and your truck remains on land, right, not in the water, and then you pull the boat out. So what was happening here? It was going flat, so people were driving their trucks, backing them up, four wheels fully almost submerged.
Yeah, like half
in the
underwater.
water.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Almost like up to the bed in the back.
Yeah, so that looked really dangerous, and a lot of people were in two-wheel drive, so they started spinning their tires. Yeah, it was fun to watch.
People were like doing crazy stuff. Like I did not know this was a thing, but apparently, like when you're on the boat, you don't get off the boat until the truck pulls you out of the water.
Yes.
Like apparently you can't get out of the boat before, and so it felt really sketchy with like not only a boat but like 10 or 12 people still in the boat as the truck is pulling it off the ramp and onto the dry part of the parking lot.
Anyway, and we saw all kinds of trucks.
We did.
We saw a lot of full-size trucks, some heavy-duty trucks.
We saw people riding on the hitch, which seemed sketchy as well.
Yeah, people for some reason standing on hitches while moving. That was really strange. And we saw a 4Runner trying to pull a big boat too.
Yeah, that guy was definitely overloaded.
Yeah.
And so it's good to see. I just thought to myself, set up a camera there and just do like those inlet videos where you would see all kinds of wacky shenanigans going on. So anyway, we had dinner, and the next day is, of course, when it got interesting. They did a product presentation, and it was interesting to see that Nissan, of course, has been in the forefront of truck in a lot of ways, right? They said they were the first to introduce the crew cab.
And also the compact truck.
And also
in 1959.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder why it took them 17 years to update the Frontier. To be fair, it didn't really take 17 years. It took 16 years because last year, so this is a weird thing about the Frontier, and strange strategy, but this is how they chose to do it, right? So we had a Frontier for 16 years, and then last year they decided, you know what, we're going to upgrade the powertrain, but not change the truck. So, they went to the new engine, which is newish, right? It's still a V6. And we're going to give it a 9-speed transmission, which from Alex on Autos. So, Alex, if you were wrong about this, blame him, not me. He said that the unit, what's the unit called?
Well, it's a 9-speed transmission, and I thought it was
who makes it?
From Japco. It's a company that's partially owned by Nissan, making transmissions.
And Alex said that is actually a Mercedes unit that they're building.
Well,
under license.
There may be truth to that. Obviously, I don't doubt Alex, but because they had a partnership. Remember how the X-Class Mercedes pickup truck was actually a Frontier?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was in other markets, not in the United States.
So I did not research that, but Alex is one of the most knowledgeable people out there. He's certainly very consumer driven, so he knows his stuff backwards and forward. He's tuned in. So I believe that. So so they did this weird thing where they basically upgraded the power plant and then the transmission, and then this year they redid the truck. And if you're thinking about a new Frontier, they're building them already in Mississippi, and they'll be at the dealerships by September, they were saying?
That's right. Yeah, they were saying early to mid-September, maybe late September. You should be seeing them at dealers, and if you pre-ordered one and ordered one, you should be able to see them.
Yeah, and when we put up our videos, and there's videos up already on TFL Off-Road. We did an off-road
And
video.
truck, yeah.
And there's a video on truck, a deep dive. You can actually take a look at it. And a lot of the comments in the videos where it looks a lot like a Tacoma, I think it's a lot, basically, the Warrior concept. Remember the Warrior concept came out in Detroit. It was a really great looking, very macho off-road truck. A Titan, not a Frontier. But a lot of that kind of design language, I think, went into the Frontier.
I mean, it looks totally different. I mean, especially from the front.
Yeah.
Maybe I see those comparisons when you look at the profile or maybe the rear of the truck or rear three-quarter of the truck. But it's not a bad thing. I think it looks great. The front is very square, right? The headlights are square. They're LED signature lights. And you got those, kind of vertical elements as well. And then on the Pro 4X, you have orange or red tow hooks, which is very,
Lava
very
red, Andre.
I'm sorry, lava red.
That's what they call it.
So Nissan has this color called lava red, which to my eye looks orange when I look at it.
It looks good. Whatever, red or orange, lava red. It looks good. And then, because of the comments that we put up on the videos on off-road and truck, we decided to do a side-by-side comparison of the Tacoma next to the Frontier, kind of going over feature by feature, how much space there is. So that video, when you listen to this, is up on TFL Truck.
Yes, so you can check it out there.
You can check it out, and you can decide on your own if you think that the two are actually very similar looking. So anyway, let's talk about the power plant, because that is best in class, and I'm doing that in quotes. And why am I doing it in quotes?
Well, it has the best in class horsepower.
How much?
Which is absolutely true, which is 310 horsepower. So if you compare it to others, many others, because there's a Tacoma, there's a Chevy Colorado, GMC Canyon, Jeep Gladiator, Honda Ridgeline, Toyota Tacoma is the class-leading truck,
They
like
sell
we
about
mentioned.
250,000 a year now.
At least, and they're on pace. Toyota is on pace to increase that or go beyond it. So this very competitive segment. It's growing segment. It's expanding. And so Nissan hopes to sell more Frontiers with this brand new model. But 310 horsepower is more than the Chevy Colorado, which has 308. So, and this engine, the 3.8 liter, Nissan says it's mostly new parts. I even asked them, I said, is this a Nissan GTR 3.8? They said no. Totally. I was like, can I twin turbo it?
Yeah, the hand-built unit?
Yeah. Is that a hand-built engine
Is
that
it
I
signed?
can twin turbocharge? They said no, it is not. It's unique for truck use. It has 281 pound-feet of torque, which is still really good torque for V6, but it's not the king on torque, right? If there's Jeep offers a diesel, right? GM and GMC and Chevy offer diesel engines. Ford Ranger has a turbocharged gas engine with more torque.
Wouldn't it be cool if, like, the guy who built those engines, let's say his name is like Calvin Dupree, right? They got one of those Southern names,
Okay.
one of those French names. Wouldn't it be cool if he signed the engine? And I don't even know. I'm just making fun here, but I don't even know if the engine is actually built in Mississippi. It might be built somewhere else and then stuck in the truck. But it would still be cool if they did what they do with the Z, not the Z, the GTR,
Yeah.
right, where the guy actually signs it. Why couldn't Calvin sign it? Nissan, have your guy who's building that engine sign it.
Or guys and gals who are building it. Just,
Because I bet
yeah.
you he would buy it, or she would buy it.
It would be kind of cool because it's
Sally
unique.
Dupree, she would buy it.
It's unique.
Yeah, I would.
No-
If I built the engine and they put my name on it, I'd probably buy that truck.
Yeah. Or have your friend buy it, or your neighbor.
It doesn't just
Or
have to be
whoever.
the GTR. It doesn't have. The Germans do the same thing with the AMG, where they have Klaus von Horsepower and
Sign it, yes.
They could do the same thing
Yeah.
with the Frontier. That would make it unique.
That would be kind of cool.
So so of course this year they went and completely updated, like we were talking about. So we got up, we had a product presentation, we learned all about the trucks of yore that Nissan built, and then they had a truck sitting outside of the kind of the place where we were having breakfast, and it was a demonstration truck for all the accessories. I guess there are 80 accessories that now you can buy and install or have your dealer install, right, from Nissan.
Yeah, and they're kind of increasing their accessories, right, from before.
Yeah.
They said they used to have about 50 choices. Now they're up to 80.
Which still isn't a lot, because like some of the other brands have a couple hundred.
Yeah, like Ford and Jeep, they like to tout up to 200 accessories
Yeah.
for their vehicles. But no matter, it's still pretty cool.
So the one you got on the screen, right?
That one was the accessorized one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like one of the things that they touted were those side steps, right, with the rails, with the rock rails.
You can kind of see it in some of these images.
Yeah, you can see them. And the cool thing that Nissan said is you can actually take those steps off and then use the rails just as rock rails. But I was looking at it, and each one of those steps has like, I think I want to say 4 bolts.
Four bolts, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Like, I mean, I already cringe every time I have to air down a tire. Imagine like having 4 steps with 16 bolts that you have to undo. You better bring along your electric drill, yeah. You're going to undo four steps with 16 bolts.
Well, you
And
know
then
what?
where do you put 'em?
But also, this truck is not super tall.
No.
So I would argue for all midsize trucks, and this doesn't only just go to Nissan, for all of them, including the Ford Ranger Tremor that sometimes has these similar steps, just don't put them on.
Yeah, I don't like those steps.
Because you don't really need them. I mean, it's only about 10 inches off the ground.
I know they're a thing. Remember when we got our old Ford F-150? It had one of those steps on it.
Yes.
Don't put those things on it. If
Right.
you're gonna go off-roading, they catch on everything. They're just yeah.
I guess if you have small children,
Yeah.
maybe that helps your child to get in the truck.
Oh,
But other than that, if you're off-roading, don't do it.
by the way, if you guys are interested in our F-150, we had it up on TFL bids. Unfortunately, it didn't meet the reserve, which is $6,000, but it's well worth that. It's got a bunch of cool parts on it, including a lift, including off-road lights, including brand new tires. So if you're interested, $6,000 for our F-150 that we use in our series to hell and back.
Email us at ask@tfltruck.com.
Yeah, and it's got a cool topper on it. Well, we took it off because we're using it as a shop truck, but it comes with a topper. So anyway, the other thing you immediately notice from that picture, which you changed, but that's okay, are the tires. And they didn't really increase the size of the tires. So what we have are Hankook ATs, right? If I remember right, they're like 32-ish, 31 and a half.
Yeah, like
It's a weird size.
so. Yeah, it's a similar size to what they had before. It's a Hankook Dynapro AT2. So it's an all-terrain tire, but it's a little bit more, like a compromise between a street tire and an off-road tire. So it's not super aggressive. And it's about 31.6 inches in height. So technically, manufacturers, and we like to call it a 32 because it's approaching a 32. And it's about the same size as before, I believe.
Yeah, and that's on the Pro 4X, of course.
Yeah.
The more street-worthy models get more street-worthy tires. Now, out of all the accessories, right, and it's the usual stuff of accessories, right? Stuff to put in the bed, stuff to make a truck look cooler. The most interesting one was this radio speaker that the Honda Ridgeline has speakers built into the bed. Well, Nissan decided to kind of also add speakers to the bed, but instead of building them into the bed and using the bed as kind of a resonator for the speakers, it's like a little box that you can then attach to the rail in the bed. There it is. You're showing it in the video, and on the screen, and then you can have your tailgate party out the back of your Frontier if you want some tunes.
Yeah, it's Nissan branded.
Yeah.
It mounts into like you said, into this storage
system.
rail system in the bed, which Nissan, of course, has, and they were one of the first actually to bring the rail system to the bed. I liked it a lot, and it's so you plug it in, you charge it. It has a built-in battery in the speaker, and then you can play, I think, several hours of music.
Yeah. So if you want a manual transmission, get yourself a Jeep.
Not available. Nissan is not available with a manual.
Unfortunately, there's one powertrain, and that's that V6, which is, we asked them about that. We were like, hey, your competitors, especially Chevy with the Colorado Canyon twins, right? Not only is there a 6, but there's a diesel, there's a 4. Did they still have the 4, or did they get rid of the 4 in the Colorado Canyon? The 4-cylinder.
I think it's still around, but they got rid of the manual.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, the competitors have a lot, and so does Jeep, right? Have a lot more choice in terms of powertrains, but Nissan said that they had focus groups with clinics, and they found that this was what their customers wanted. So I can't argue with them.
Yeah, but there's a small issue
Yep.
with this V6 and the 9-speed. It's the fuel efficiency is not great.
It's not. I mean, most trucks in this class are with the V6, right? Not the diesels are between 9 and 22 combined. So. What is these?
19 and 22.
Yeah, this is an estimate. So there you go.
So this is according to Nissan. They're saying with a Two-wheel drive Nissan Frontier. City is 18 city, highway 24 and 20 combined for two-wheel drive, and the four-wheel drive 17 city, 22 highway, and 19 combined, which is actually a little bit less than some others. So if you look at Tacoma, if you look at V6 Chevy Colorado, that's on the lower side.
Yeah, and they don't have for a new truck some things that the competitors do. I can name two right away, actually three. And whether you like these things or not is up to you, but let's just name them. No stop start, which, having talked to manufacturers, is usually good for about 1 mpg.
Yeah, so, but a lot of owners actually dislike stop start systems.
That's why I said, it's whether you like it or not,
yeah.
it's up to you, but not available.
Right?
The one that was kind of surprising was over-the-air updates. Those are becoming a thing. For a new vehicle not to have over-the-air updates is a little surprising, because it's not only good for you and me, it's good for the manufacturer too, right? I mean, no consumer wants to take the time and the hassle of having to take their vehicle into the dealership for some kind of a software update.
Or a small update, yeah.
Or a small
like
update,
that,
yeah. It's not, it's something that I don't think. Maybe it's good for the dealer. I don't know, because once they get you in there, then they can upsell you on a radio boombox
for the bed.
For the bed.
Yes.
And then the third thing that's very interesting is they don't have electric steering, right? It's
hydraulic.
It's hydraulic,
assisted,
yeah.
And it's belt driven off the engine.
Yeah, which is pretty old school.
Which is traditional.
Yeah.
And Nissan said actually they did it because of kind of that trucky feel.
Yeah, I don't buy that,
the
Andre.
trucky steering.
Yeah, that one I don't buy. So they said they had consumer clinics, and then Andre wanted to be in that consumer clinic, didn't
I did. They said no.
They wouldn't allow it.
They said I knew too much about trucks and I would be biased.
No, you said you would not just be biased, but you would steer the other people in the focus group.
Yeah, and I said, hey, I still want to be there.
But I don't buy that, dude. They said that the consumers wanted that kind of, feel. And look, hydraulic steering does have much more feel than electric. Electric is very numb. But if you ask somebody what a truck drives like, it's not like the first thing they're going to say is, well, when you're going into a corner, you get a lot of understeer. And then if you throttle it out, you get a lot of oversteer, right? That's not what people are talking about.
No,
right?
It's not a sports car.
No, it's a truck. It drives like a truck.
Yeah.
As long as it kind of goes where you pointed. I think and it doesn't get the death wobble, right? And it doesn't tear the steering wheel from your hands. So I'm not sure about that. Once again, I think that may be a cost thing in my opinion. Anyway, so those are the three things that it doesn't have that many of the competitors might have.
And it's also unique because, well, not that unique, I guess, because the Ford Ranger only has one powertrain option too.
Yes.
But many others have options, right? If you look at
Ridgeline has one.
I guess that's true. Yeah. But I guess from the truck world, if you look at full-size trucks, most of them have like 5 or 6 options.
Well, Tacoma has options.
Yeah.
Most
Colorado has options,
and the Gladiator has options too, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of unique.
Yeah. Anyway, also let's talk about the configuration of the truck, right? You can get it in either a 5 or a 6 foot bed, depending on your needs. If I were getting the off-road truck, the Pro 4X, I would probably get the 5 foot bed. It seems like that's a good length, and it is something, of course, when you're going off-roading, it's nicer to have less length than more length for the most part.
Well, yeah, for your breakover angle, for sure.
Yeah.
And actually, so they are offering a crew cab, long wheelbase, 6 foot bed option, but that's in their SV grade.
Yeah.
So it goes, S is the base model, so Frontier S, and that's kind of the base model, king cab with 6 foot bed. So the short cab is still available. Then you have the SV. Then you have the SV long wheelbase, which is a long crew cab, long bed, which is kind of interesting. Some people need that, right? Like if you're maybe you have a small business, a plumber, or some sort of electrician, you need more storage in the bed.
Yeah, it's the work truck.
Yeah, it's kind of the work truck version. But SV can be very nice. I also got a chance to experience the SV during this program.
Yeah, you drove it and you did a video.
Yeah.
And that's coming, but driving impressions are embargoed until August 10th.
Right.
So that video won't be out till August 10th because you did talk about driving impressions.
And I talked about pricing.
Pricing also embargoed.
Yeah.
And we could talk about pricing now in kind of a roundabout manner. I would say, it's probably going to be competitive to the other trucks. I think that's fair to say. So
Yeah, and also competitive to where Nissan was before.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So don't expect to drastically change.
And that's pretty common.
Yeah.
I don't think any manufacturer, like, it's very rare when they jump up a lot, and it's even more rare when they jump down a lot.
Yeah.
Not the way the world works, unfortunately. And the other thing we should talk about is, I thought this was really cool. There used to be an old truck in the Nissan lineup called the Desert Runner, right? Which was like a pre-runner, a classic Baja truck where you want less weight and you want to fly across the desert, and you don't necessarily need the added complexity of four-wheel drive. And so they rebranded that, and I think it's really smart, as not the Pro 4X, but the Pro X. So
yes.
You see what they did there, Andre? They got rid of the 4.
They got rid of the 4. Yeah. And they said they looked at many names.
Yeah.
They looked at Pro 2X.
Ooh.
They canceled that.
Yeah.
They looked at Pre-Runner or Desert Runner, in fact, but they settled on the Pro X. And what this Pro X truck is basically looks like a Pro 4X. So if you come up to it from the outside, it still has the same look, red tow hooks, same tires, Bilstein shocks, right, are available on that model as well. So it's got the suspension system, it's got the look, of course, the same power plant, but they just removed the transfer case, so it has no four-wheel drive and also no rear locker, which I thought was interesting because sometimes in a two-wheel drive truck it's nice to have a locker just to get you past some sort of an obstacle.
Not just that, but to like do crazy ass donuts in the sand.
Yeah, or in the snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those one wheel things aren't that cool. And basically it's a Pro 4X without the locker or without the front wheel drive.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And same look, which I think is interesting. But let us know what you think, because I haven't actually interviewed somebody who bought it. I wouldn't buy it because I live in Colorado, right? In Colorado, we get a lot of snow, ice. We go off road. I launch my boats.
Yeah.
Two-wheel drive is not work for me. But who does this work for?
Well, it works for me if I'm the camera guy. Watching you try to struggle up the ramp in two-wheel drive with wet tires.
Yeah, there you go.
Now let's talk about what happened next. So we did a walk around of that truck, kind of looked at the accessories, and then they had a whole bunch of trucks for us to drive. And because COVID's still, unfortunately, out there rampaging, our country, they let us pick our own trucks, but we decided to drive together because we're both vaccinated.
We work together, and we're vaccinated.
So the cool part there was that we had different choices of their new colors. And there's this really cool new green called Tactical Green.
Yep.
It's hot right now. Dark green is really hard. It's like a forest green color. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those colors that looks better, I think, in person than necessarily in pictures. They also took a color from the Titan. I think it's called Cardinal Red. It's kind of this dark red, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then the color that we chose, which I think was the coolest, is, what was it, Baja Storm? Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Baja Storm it's kind of a sandy color.
Yeah.
Right? They also have Boulder Gray, which is kind of this, some people said, looks a little bit like, concrete or, one of those kind of matte finish colors. They also have Red Alert, Deep Blue, Black, of course, and Gunmetal, which is another kind of a silver color, and also Glacier White is going to be available. So at least 9 colors to begin with.
Yeah, so we grabbed our Baja Storm, which is cool.
Yep.
Pro 4X. And the one thing that they're doing with not the leather trucks, but the cloth trucks, is they're taking that lava red from the outside and putting it on the inside. So they're including it in like that grab handle that's there for the passenger. It's a really nice accent. I kind of found ours with the leather and the stitched Pro 4X to be kind of a sea of black, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, so
it needed that lava, and all their materials had that interior, but we never even saw a truck with that kind of interior with the orange accents, kind of splashed in the truck.
I would have preferred that.
I would have preferred that too.
Yeah. Because it adds color, like you said, and just more inviting. Just the interior makes with multiple colors and multiple shades. Also, these trucks have sunroofs. So if you need a little bit more light, you can actually
traditional sunroofs.
Not panoramic.
Right.
Not panoramic sunroof, but a traditional sunroof is there.
So I sat in the front, and of course the first thing you want to do, when you sit in the car is plug in your phone, right? Unfortunately. And there's a USB and a USB port in the front and in the back. So there's 4 charge ports, which is nice. And they kind of hedge their bet, so you have one of each. I was surprised they still had an analog gauge. Most manufacturers now are going to digital gauges, but I like analog gauges. So while I was surprised, I was happy about it. I think they're cool.
And they also have a wireless charger in some of the upper models.
They do have a wireless charger.
Yeah, which is cool. So it's another way to charge your phone. And but you plugged in. I think we also used it to navigate. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto are available.
And a big screen is on the top of the line truck.
9-inch infotainment screen is around.
And by the way, like I said, we can't talk about specific prices, but figure like 30 to 45K ish is the range.
For these trucks.
For these trucks, yeah, that's kind of what the current ones are at, depending. And then, the one thing I always like to talk about because it's becoming a little crazy, and Nissan is actually relatively good at this, but it still is wrong. And this is Roman's rant, right?
Okay, wow.
So here's Roman's rant. I'm tired, and I think it's wrong for the manufacturers and the dealers now to add in a destination fee, which in this case is $1,150, which is on the low end. It used to be $500. Some manufacturers are going up to $1,900, and then you go to the dealer, and the dealer zings you usually for another $500 document fee or dealer handling or prep or something.
And it just hits you at the last moment.
Yeah. And imagine like going to the grocery store and buying a donut, and then you go to the counter, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, there's a 20-cent fee on top of that for delivery." I'm like, "What?" I think what it allows them to do is advertise the MSRP and kind of forget about the additional. Well, some cars it's $2,000 or $2,500. In this case, it's $1,600 of fee that you're basically not including in the MSRP. So I think there's a simple solution, and that is do it like everybody else does it. Don't separate out the destination fee. Just include it in the price of the vehicle, and
that you communicate.
You communicate, and then when you're saying the MSRP is include your fee, and if you want to make it $1,000, or if you want, the fee is supposed to be what it costs to like deliver the vehicle from the factory to the dealer. But it makes no sense because whether you live next to the factory or you live in California, right, which
if it goes at 2,000 miles or 10 miles,
it's going to be the same. So at this point, just include it in the price, and you can have it be as much or as little as you want. But I think it's kind of becoming now. Initially, it was wrong, but I could understand it. But now with the fees increasing, it's just a money grab. And so if you're going to be advertising it, advertise the entire price, not the price minus these additional fees, which really you can't negotiate.
And this
you
is
try,
not
but
it's not just Nissan.
Right.
It's
everybody.
It's every manufacturer that's
Yeah. And I'm saying Nissan is actually one of the better ones. I want to say Stellantis is up to $1,500 now
for delivering like a Jeep Gladiator or Ram truck.
Yeah. So it was. I think what happened was it became an easy way to make additional money without having to hit the MSRP price, and it's a loophole that has now been opened up so wide you could drive a Frontier through it. Anyway, I'm done with my rant.
Rant closed.
Rant closed. So we're sitting in the truck. We're about to go to the off-road course.
Yeah.
You were driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And the thing about mid-sized trucks is they're kind of the right size, right? They're not too big, they're not too small. I found that with the seat all the way back at 6'2", I was comfortable enough. But the problem with mid-sized trucks is usually you can't move the seat all the way back because then you will encroach onto the backseat passenger's legroom.
Right.
And so I'm always a little cramped in a mid-sized truck. Some are better than others. I think the Gladiator is really bad, actually, just because the windshield is so straight up. I feel like my nose is up against the windshield. The Colorado is a little tight. I think the Ranger is a little bit better.
Yeah,
because the windshield is sloped a little bit more.
Right.
The one that I'm the most comfortable in, honestly, is a Ridgeline. In terms of space, both
it's also the Ridgeline is wider too.
Yeah, in terms like it's like a pilot, right? In there, basically, it's got a lot of room.
Right.
This one's kind of somewhere in the middle. I felt more comfortable when I was driving it than when I was passengering it. I also noticed that it was very old school. There's a lot of buttons arrayed in very linear fashion, wouldn't you say? So especially on the left side, there's all your buttons for like your locking diff.
There's a locking diff. There's a tow haul mode on the left. There's several other buttons for their Nissan Shield 360 driver assistance technologies. And
the Japanese are really actually doing a good job of bringing the basic safety features into the base trucks, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the domestic manufacturers, you have to pay for like autonomous braking, or they make you pay for blind spot monitoring,
or collision alert or assist.
Yeah. And the Japanese, because of some, I guess, competition, or because they think it's right, are including it even in the base trucks and base vehicles, and that's great. So I love to see as many safety features included in every level as possible. At the end of the day, you're putting your most loved possessions, which is your family and your friends, in this vehicle, and your pets too. So let's make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, and also I was surprised, talking about buttons and all that stuff. The industry is going to like drive mode select knobs, right? So you have the eco, the sport, maybe the tow haul modes, and it's kind of a selection where you kind of roll through them, right? But Nissan kind of didn't do that, right? They have a button for tow haul.
Yep.
And that's kind of it.
It's surprising because that's usually just software, right? So it's a little bit of hardware where you have to have buttons or a knob or something to select the drive mode, but the rest of it is just software, right? That's using the ABS that's already in the vehicle and the sensors
and the transmission mapping and all that stuff.
But not there. But I'm not sure that maybe the great thing that Nissan has always done is brought value and simplicity and kind of durability for the most part to their vehicles, and so I think that this vehicle kind of continues in that line.
I would agree too.
Yeah, and so the other thing is, of course, we sat in the back, and you're 6'3", I'm 6'2". The back seat is a little bit upright, but they all are.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a reclining seat in a mid-sized pickup truck. And if you can do that, anybody who can do that, more power to you. And then there's also under-seat storage in the back. A little bit, not a lot.
So when I sat in the back...
Enough for a handgun, not a shotgun.
Yeah, the Pro 4X trucks all had the Fender stereo system, which is amazing. I love that system.
The first time I heard that was in the Volkswagen. I was blown away.
Yeah, and they have a subwoofer underneath the rear seat. So that takes away some of the storage space. But if you don't have the Fender stereo, if you have the more basic one, you have the wider area down there, which is great, which is great storage. And also, so when I was sitting there behind where I would sit when I was driving, my knees just touched the front seat and my head just touched the ceiling. So I was okay, but I kind of felt like I was, it's a limited amount of space for me.
Yeah. For big guys, mid-sized trucks are always going to be a little problematic.
Yeah.
Also, they said that Nissan pioneered in-bed spray liner from the factory, so you can get that as well.
Yeah, and it's available.
And there's also power outlets in the back and in the tailgate, kind of in the tailgate. Well, not in the tailgate, next to the tailgate, right in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So how many volts?
400 watt.
400 watt.
So which is kind of standard, right? Yeah. That's kind of where they used to be, and that's kind of where they are now. So don't expect yet, to have major power output. But it's good enough for some tools, charging tools, and also powering like a laptop, basically.
Yeah, and then I like the fact that they still have, which is wonderful, a knob for tuning and a knob for volume. So thank you, Nissan, for not getting rid of that. And the screen, was it 8-inch?
It starts at 7 and it goes to 9.
9, okay.
Yeah.
Is bright and pretty easy to use. Navigation is what you would think it would be. It's kind of standard Nissan. So if you've gotten a new Rogue or a Pathfinder, I think you'll find it very familiar.
Yeah, and then so we did that, and then we went off-roading. Well, before that, they also had an older hard-body truck there.
That was cool, yeah.
We did a TikTok.
Yeah.
You did a TikTok.
Yeah, comparing the old hard body to the new. And the hard body, it was never called a hard body. Apparently it was called a Nissan truck. Back then Nissan had one truck, not two.
Yeah.
Dare we forget the Titan. But back then it was just a Nissan. And the hard body was because it was like a double-walled construction. And so I guess in the advertising it became a hard body, and then it kind of stuck.
It was a nickname that's really stuck, which is cool, I think. And then we went off-roading in Pro 4Xs. Yeah,
they took us up this kind of, I would call it dirt road plus. So it was, the thing about Utah is we've got kind of high arid desert here in Colorado. So a lot of our off-roading is kind of deserty, you know what I mean? Scrubland-ish.
And in the mountains, it's rocky.
It's rocky. In Utah, because I think they get more rain, it's more like the European Alps, right? So it's much greener. And so, it was like overgrown birch trees and then this path. And there were some pretty, and you can check that out on TFL Off-Road. There were some pretty steep uphills. And one of the things that they were very proud of and wanted us to try, because there was a guy there who actually told us to try it, was the hill descent control. So it does have hill descent control, which is nice. Like I say, we can't really talk about driving impressions right now, but you can see what we did on the video, and you can also hang out till August 10th, I believe, when we'll have videos talking about driving impressions. But anyway, we went up and down hills, followed the side-by-side, we filmed it, and we didn't air down. which
Right,
hurt my
and
back.
it was not correct. We didn't have time, or they didn't want us to air down.
Right. Which
And
would have helped a lot.
And we did, like you said, it was kind of like a forest road, kind of chewed up forest road, but we didn't do any like big articulations.
And
right?
we just put this video out where, I was complaining about the fact that the Jeep Wrangler doesn't have lumbar support. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I had a BMW M3 that I rolled into a tree in Europe, and ever since then my back has been pretty hosed up. And so lumbar support is hugely important to me, and I was all grumpy because I couldn't find it in the Nissan. And then you
And then it was there.
Yeah, you look at me like, you idiot. Look, it's not. You expected, left side
Yeah.
on the seat. No, it's where the Europeans put it, right side on the upper part of the seat.
Yeah, so, and only on the driver's side, by the way.
Only on the driver's side.
So there is lumbar support on the driver's side. And
it's manual.
Yeah.
So I was happy when we found it. And I was a happy camper.
There you go.
And then we did the off-roading, and then we went to lunch, and that was really cool because they had a bunch of different trim levels and different trucks that we could drive. And you actually got to go towing with it.
Yeah, so they had prepared a boat, once
Yeah.
again, a ski boat, which was about 22-footer, I believe. It was an Access boat, and they said the trailer in the boat weighed about 5,600 pounds. And they got it hooked up to a Pro 4X Frontier, and that video is coming on August 10th. Because we talk about, we actually got to drive up and down a pretty steep grade.
8%, dude.
Yeah.
It was really cool. We were just driving around like, well, let's see how this thing does. It's hard to tell how a truck does on flat. And then I look up, and there's this road that's like driving
Straight up.
to the middle of heaven. I'm like, Andre, look up there. And we get on this road. It's an 8% grade. So not only did we get to haul a heavy ass boat up 8%, but we got to take it down. The one thing, once again, that in my mind is missing, and they all do this in the midsize segment, is a brake controller. Now with the boat, Andre was explaining you have a surge brake, so you don't really need one, but I would still love a brake controller.
I agree, and I asked them, I said, is it available? They said no. It's not a Nissan accessory.
Yeah.
So right now, if you are towing with the Frontier, obviously the hitch is available, the wiring is all there, all of that stuff is there. But if you need a brake controller for your trailer, you would have to go aftermarket and add that in.
Yeah, it was like when I remember when the Gladiator came out, we asked the same thing: where's the brake controller? And it became this big to-do. And I think like a year and a half later, they promised it finally came, and it was like an option. Same thing with the Ranger, if you remember.
Right.
It was the same thing. I just don't think. Either the focus groups don't think it's important, but once again, it's a safety thing, Even with a surge brake, if you're going a long way downhill with a surge brake, you can't control how much. It's just on all the time, right?
Yeah, because the trailer pushes down on it, right?
Yeah, and so you can't control it, and that just leads to brake heating
Fade,
and then fade eventually, right?
Yeah.
So, if you're out there, manufacturers listening to us, if they're always looking for like competitive advantages, right? What do you build the commercial on? What do you what do we hang the hook on when we do our review? A brake controller is a great one. Like, remember GMC did that bed that they did with the carbon fiber bed, right? They built a whole set of commercials around dropping stuff into the bed.
Right.
I can see the commercial now. Like you're towing your boat with a competing truck and you go flying into the river or the lake or the reservoir because you can't stop it and the truck sinks. That's a free one for you guys. And then you swim out, right?
Yeah.
And you crawl onto the boat, and then the wife looks at you and says, well, this was unexpected.
Where is your brake controller, honey? Yeah, that type of thing. So,
whereas the Nissan owner just backs the boat in. So that's one of the things. And then we got to tow. We got to compare it to the Tacoma, which is up on TFL Truck when you're listening to this. And then we headed back to Sundance. And before we flew back to Colorado, I had a long conversation with some of the engineers. And by the way, the Nissan team is great. So guys, thank you very much.
They're awesome. Yeah,
for hosting us and for letting us ask these annoying questions. But I was asking them, I think the question that maybe you guys are asking, like, where's the Pro 4XX or whatever you want to call it version, right? The one that competes with the Bison, the one that competes with the Rubicon.
Or the Raptor.
Or the Raptor, or the Ranger
like
Raptor, which you know is coming, right?
Yeah.
So, and they kind of looked at me like, we're working with corporate. Hopefully that's something that might or might not happen. But, I think nowadays you need that, right? The Pro 4X lines up against not the top trim level off-road for most of the manufacturers, but the one that's below that.
And they kind of talked about it in a
It's
way.
not a ZR2 competitor.
Right, because it doesn't have, either adjustable or live shocks, right? It
Right.
doesn't have that. And it doesn't have a wide body. It doesn't have
Bigger tires.
The bigger tires.
But this is, and I was saying, this is very simple, right? I mean, people are going to do this. Aftermarket's going to do it. How hard could it be for a manufacturer to, put on a 2-inch lift instead of 32s, go at least 33s? Throw on some aftermarket lights. Beef up the cladding a little bit. The one nice thing about the truck is it does come fully skid plated.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 skid plates in the Pro 4X, and then there's like an aluminum one on the bottom. But I mean, let's face it, it might compete against the Tacoma TRD off-road, but there's no TRD Pro version. And if I were Nissan, just for the sake of the brand and for the sake of a halo vehicle, I think there needs to be that TRD Pro version of the Pro 4X.
Yeah, the true Warrior.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
build the Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and of course this is the first one, and so I could see them coming up with one, and they're not going to tell us, right? Manufacturers, we don't discuss future product with journalists.
And we tried. We asked them about the Xterra too.
Yeah,
And they're not going to talk about it.
yeah, because
But-
Xterra makes sense too.
Yeah. Because, right now the Wrangler, the Bronco, all of that, the 4Runner is being redesigned.
Yeah, I think it's got to be like some of the worst timing in the automotive biz. Both Toyota with the FJ and Nissan with the Xterra walked away from the 2 vehicles that are now the most popular. Dude, I can't believe this, but they're going to sell 250,000 Wranglers.
Yeah.
250,000 Wranglers.
Even with added competition.
And let's face it, the Wrangler, I love the Wrangler. It's one of my favorite vehicles. But most people are using it as a family on-road hauler and not as a true off-roader. And it's not grand on-road, right? It's very limited. I mean, whenever you build something that's really good off-road, it's like it's not going to be that good on-road because the 2 things are very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, Xterra,
We don't know.
we don't know.
We asked. We told them. We asked. And
Well, Pro 4XX or whatever, they've got the Pro. What would you call it?
I would call it the Pro 4X Warrior.
That's not bad, yeah.
Well, actually, this is not magic. They have a Warrior type branding overseas.
Do they really?
Australia has
Yeah.
a Warrior Frontier, some other markets. So this is not unique to us.
And you wouldn't even have to add a separate power plant. You could give it like more free-flowing exhaust. What Honda did was really smart with the Ridgeline. They kind of off-roaded it up a little bit, right? They added bigger
Fender
cladding,
flares,
and they rerouted the exhaust
duals.
duals to go out the back instead of like one out the side. Toyota does it with their exhaust on their TRD Pros, right, which sound phenomenal, by the way, Toyota, so thank you for doing that. And I don't think it would be that hard for Nissan to do the same thing. A slight lift, a more aggressive tire. These Hankooks are okay. They're okay.
Yeah, put some beefy tires on there and
They're
just go.
They're
Yeah.
better than, the Ridgeline has like off-road looking tires, so this is a step above that. These are actually off-road tires. But yeah, that would be a good idea. And I think from my perspective, I think they're going to sell. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand for the Frontier, Andre. I think they're at least the first year or two, they're going to sell every one they can make. And let's face it, right now we're in a really weird time, right, where you can't even get trucks.
Or any vehicle for that.
And if they're actually building them, they're gonna own the world. Because if you try to go get a Tacoma, you're not going to have much luck right now.
Or Chevy Colorados, there's none on the dealer lots.
Yeah, a used Tacoma is worth more than a new one right now.
That's insane.
It's insane. So I think if you can actually build them, and they are building them, then they're gonna do really, really well. And we asked how many chips were in each one of them, and they weren't sure. So I've heard different stories, Andre. I've tried to research this, and I've heard that each vehicle has like 4 or 5 major chips, and there are different kinds of chips, right? But the chips that we're talking about are like chips that run the transmission programming, chips that run
Like
the
motherboards,
infotainment.
like big
Chips
computers.
that run the engine management, right? And I think there's like a half a dozen of those in most vehicles. And then there are smaller chips, I think, that do other things.
Well, no, everything, your stereo system has, chips, your controls for your mirrors, right? Your everything, your headlights.
What's weird is I can't get a straight answer even from the engineers. Like I asked, you saw me,
Well,
how many chips? They looked at me like I was not sure.
Well, because I think there's too many. But yeah, somebody should know.
So this whole chip shortage thing is becoming kind of this very opaque story that I can't get my arms around because I can't, the story is basically that, we outsourced the making of these chips to like Taiwan, and there was a factory that, burned down, which was responsible for like building 80% of the world's chips. And then during COVID, then what happened was that the car manufacturers kind of gave up their allocation of chips, and then computer and TV monitor and TV makers bought up those chips. But I still haven't gotten a straight story as to what's really happening and why is it so hard. It's, the first 3 months I got it, but now people are saying this is going to go on. Some people are saying at least till the end of the year, and some other people are saying until this time next year. So
and companies are losing billions of dollars.
I know it's incredible.
Ford is losing billions. GM is now losing.
This week's
money.
news was that GM stopped building full-size trucks.
Right. It's insane.
That's incredible.
And also, Roman, it's not as simple as let me take out the chip out of this little device that shows how many subscriptions we have, and let me stick it into a truck. I don't think it's as simple as that, right?
No, I think you're
because
right.
a lot of computers are specialized to that task. If the computer wants to do a transmission controller, it's very specialized just for that job. So it's complicated, I would say.
Yeah, and we'll try to get to the bottom of it as best as we can, but we're certainly on the outside looking in, unfortunately.
And the other thing, I think a lot of manufacturers don't want to disclose all their kind of secrets.
Right. It's like future product, yeah.
Right. Tell me how many chips you have. Well, I'm not going to...
For a while, the story was that Toyota had planned this after that storm in Japan, right, that knocked out production in the paint factories. Toyota did there was a story out there that they did an assessment of their needs, and that they found out that they, would be short of chips if there was a chip shortage, so they stockpiled. But now Toyota's also having issues building vehicles. Subaru has stopped building vehicles. It's a crazy time, Andre, I hope it returns to normal. We're getting emails every day from people who are struggling, buying cars, and like Nathan, his daughter got in a car accident.
She's okay.
She's okay. Yeah. Nobody got hurt, but his Pathfinder is looking like it's going to be totaled,
yeah.
and that's happening every day to a lot of people. And then how do you go replace that if you go to the dealer? And it's funny, when I picked up our Bronco, right? And by the way, thank you to Tim and the Ronald McDonald House for allowing us to get one that early and actually buy one of the first editions. But I was talking to a couple of the people there, and I said, how are you guys doing? And the guy said, oh, we're doing much better. We got 3 or 4 trucks last week. And I'm like, 3 or 4?
No.
3. Johnson's
you need 100.
Has 500 on their lot at any given time. 3 or 4 has got to be a trickle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's tough.
Interesting times. All right, guys. Well, once again, thanks for our Patreons or patrons.
Yes. Both of them?
Both of them. Thank you guys for supporting us. If you want to support us, where do they go, Andre?
You go to patreon.com/TFLcar.
Yep. And you can subscribe. And
we'll put more videos, like early looks at our videos that are coming up.
Yeah. When you become a patron of TFL, you get access to videos before we publish them. And of course, we try our best to answer your questions. We get a lot of questions emailed to us. And of course, if you're helping to support this podcast, we make sure that those questions get answered as best as possible. So thank you very much. Head on over to TFL Truck and check out the comparison between the Tacoma and the new Frontier. I think you'll enjoy it. Andre was a little hot. You were a little hot.
Well, it was hot temperature.
Yes.
Yeah, and there was people just staring at us.
People waiting for us. People circling like vultures. Trying to get there. There's only one Tacoma and a lot of Frontiers, and people wanted to do that comparison. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, this is Roman.
And Andre.
Remember, check out TFLtruck.com, where Andre is busy every day posting new truck and used truck news. See you guys next time. Ciao.